My name is Yannick Du Pont, CEO of Spark. And Spark works for the last 28 years in dozens of fragile, conflict-affected states where we support youth in getting a job or starting and growing their own company. It was a study done by DFID years ago on fragile states, which really described what I've been feeling for a while, that the most precious commodity and the least available commodity in fragile states is trust. If you respectfully and in a co-creative way work with local partners and local community, then that respect that you will receive in return will give you more knowledge. People will share much more what will work and will not work. People will go beyond the transactional and just seeing you as a foreign aid provider, but actually also as a partner that you can work with on the longer run. And through that respect and mutual long-term strategic thinking together, I think you can get far more impact. When we started 30 years ago, we basically went into Bosnia just designing our own program. So we thought that we could figure out from distance what students and professors at the University of Tuzla in Bosnia and Herzegovina, what they would need based on some sketchy information. The way we designed the program was totally not fit for context or purpose. So it was successful in the sense that we learned a lot, but in a lot of other senses, it was actually the first year a bit of a failure. It was the first lesson on the importance of really deep co-design with local partners from the outset, not just in semantics, but actually doing it and also drawing the consequences to the end. That means that then if you go into execution of a program, that also you leave the lead to your local partners and you're there to help them, to be a service to them. This is unfortunately one thing that I learned in the development sector is still not the norm. It took usually quite a long time to build the trust in the beginning, and it often required being very early on in conflict zones active. So this is why you'll find our NGO today planning in Ukraine. We need to find people, we need to support them in this moment and find those that we can trust and that they can learn to trust us at this very moment, so that later on we can actually build on those networks and build on the trust to build great development programs. And that has really, really proven to help us. So if we do this and we really work very closely with trusted partners from the beginning, then we have far more impacts later. Building programs that are really multi-stakeholder, you can get so much more out of it in different senses. So if you basically come together based on mutual objectives and you work together, you will accomplish, I think, two things. The first is actually, I think, a more sophisticated understanding of the problems you're trying to tackle and the solutions you're designing. If we design something in Yemen through a Dutch lens, that's unlikely to really catch on. If it regards women empowerment, for example, in the job market. It's only when we work with, for example, in that case, the Islamic Development Bank, or if we work with good local organizations and let them explain to us how we can best support them to reach women to work, then you will have an impact. The second component is that you get far more easy trust and acceptance. And if you have trusted partners, you have much more reach, much more impact. I think your programs become more relevant. Partnerships are key because you get a much better insight into these kind of complexities, and you don't just look through your own Western lens. You have a dialogue, and how would this one work, and why this, and question it. That brings the plan to a higher level. I very much underestimated the difficulty of bringing different organizational cultures together. If you partner, it means you need to truly understand what the partner means. You need to take time, to understand each other. You shouldn't underestimate how much proactive energy you need to invest to make them work. They don't just happen by themselves, and they don't sustain by themselves. When I think about sustainability of results, I think that you must have stakeholders that have a longer term interest in that things work and keep working beyond your own presence, that they're really center stage in the design, that is going to work in a way that people feel that this is their thing and they will carry it forward. How you make the partnership itself sustainable, I think by constantly reassessing the roles. Spark, for example, our role in an immediate aftermath of a conflict is very different than it is after 5 or 10 years full development and stability. So at the beginning, it's very much more helping, in this co-creation and designing, even because there's very little capacity on the ground. People fled, things broke down. Then at some point, it's more about helping to scale. And then it's about helping to exit. And we need to recognize that there is at some point no further need for an international NGO to be there. But that requires that you constantly reflect on your role and what's your value add in a certain phase and what is not your added value. Design funding opportunities in a way that it promotes seeking out partnerships. Map out, let's say, few hundred actors and really see which match best.